Is Uganda overtaking Kenya's position as East Africa's giant? Over the past years, Kenya's position as East and Central Africa's military superpower has never been in doubt. Given the sheer size of the country's economy, natural resources, as well as a history of a comparatively stable social, political environment in the region, this leverage has positioned Kenya amongst the biggest spenders in the continent. However, recent data released by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute revealed that Uganda is catching up, and it could soon overtake Kenya as the region's military superpower. The recent report from this institution revealed that between 2012 and 2022, Uganda's military expenditure tripled from $351.8 million to $921.1 million US, having reached a record high $1.06 billion in 2021. On the other hand, Kenya's military expenditure has also increased from $841.0 million to $1.1 billion US between 2012 and 2022. In simple terms, Uganda's military budget has increased by 162% compared to Kenya's, which has increased by a mere 35% in the past 10 years. Does this mean that Kenya's days as the king of the East are numbered? In this video, I will give you a comprehensive analysis comparing the military expenditures of these two countries over the past 10 years. Is Kenya making a deplorable mistake by thinning its military budget as Uganda continues juicing its army? Is Uganda preparing to take over Kenya and depose it to become the new king of the East? One could argue that several other factors come to play when assessing the strength of a military force, including strategy, training, doctrine, technology, and operational readiness. So, military budget is just one of the many factors that determine the military might of a given country. However, I will argue that modern warfare almost entirely depends on the military production and economic resources of a given country. A higher military budget can enable a country to invest in advanced weapons system, modernize its equipment, and enhance its technological capabilities. Adequate funding also allows for research and development, procurement of advanced weaponry, maintenance of existing assets, and investment in infrastructure and logistics. These four factors contribute to a more capable and sophisticated military force. A very high military budget is the main reason why the United States remains a global military superpower. Uganda increasing its military budget is a clear indication of the country's ambitions to become a leader in the East African region. To give you a visual impression of the degree of increase in military spending in Uganda, I have prepared 3 line graphs comparing the military expenditures of Kenya and Uganda between 2012 and 2022. The data was collected from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute Military Expenditure Report of 2022. The first graph shows the military expenditures of Kenya and Uganda in US million dollars at a constant 2021 price and exchange rate. The general trend from both countries demonstrates an increase in military spending. Between 2012 and 2022, Uganda's military expenditure tripled from $351.8 million to $923 million US, having reached a record high $1.06 billion US in 2021. On the other hand, Kenya's military expenditure has also increased from $841.1 million to $1.14 billion US between 2012 and 2022. What is particularly intriguing about this graph is the exponential increase in military spending in Uganda, significantly closing the gap between the country and Kenya's military. Perhaps this is the reason why Museveni's son is getting cocky and has tweeted about taking over Kenya. He knows that his country's army is building up for something big. Another graph that shows Uganda's exponential increase in military spending compared to that of Kenya demonstrate what each country spent as a share of the GDP. Over the past 10 years, Kenya has gradually reduced its military expenditure as a share of its GDP from 1.49% to 1%, while Uganda has drawn more from its GDP into the military spending from 1.17 to 2.06, with the value peaking at 2.86 in 2021. What we can conclude from this graph is that Uganda's economy is more geared towards building its military compared to Kenya. Nevertheless, maintaining a steady increase in military budget while steadily reducing the share taken from the domestic production could indicate that Kenya's economy has more capacity to sustain military growth. The third and final graph shows what share of government's expenditure is allocated to the military in Kenya and Uganda. Kenya's government share for the military has always been significantly lower than that of Uganda, even in 2012 when the Kenya's military budget was as twice as that of Uganda. Over the past 10 years, Kenya has been slowly slashing its military expenditure from 6.78% in 2012 to 4.08% in 2022. Uganda, on the other hand, has been increasing its percentage share of government spending from 8.67% in 2012 to 10.06% in 2022, with the highest record being reported in 2021 at 12.09%. This graph clearly indicates that Museveni's government has set its priority on building a strong military that can match the best in the region. However, increasing the military budget expenditure has come at a cost of other sectors such as healthcare, education, and transport. Kenya has cut its military spending to focus on other aspects of the economy. Should Kenya also choose to use 10.06% of its military government spending, then the initial gap will be restored. So, what is Uganda planning to achieve by building its military? Should Kenya feel threatened by these developments? It is only possible to speculate what a country is trying to achieve by bolstering its military. The objectives could range from both domestic security and defense from foreign threats. For the case of Uganda, the military is the biggest arm of the government today as well as in the past. It is almost impossible to remain in power if you cannot control the army. In fact, only one civilian ruler, Dr. Milton Obote, was able to stay in office for more than 3 months. One of them, Paulo Mwanga, was in office for only 10 days. In a country where political stability depends on military strength, it's only reasonable to maintain a high military budget. But why is Museveni choosing to increase the military budget more recently and not as soon as he took power? Is he just realizing that he needs his army? Well, the answer is no. President Museveni is aware of the importance of having military backing to stay in power. He didn't spend much on the military in the past because Ugandans were just fed up with war when Museveni took power. The political stability that President Museveni brought has given rise to a political environment that caters for civilian leadership. This has come to haunt his rule. With diminishing political popularity, military power will guarantee his survival. Conspicuously, the graph demonstrates that Museveni's government recorded the highest military spending in 2021. This is the year of the country's general elections. Uganda's People Defense Forces has always been lauded for its fearlessness and readiness to take on its adversaries, but what its soldiers are earning is actually embarrassing. Out of shame, Museveni announced the plans to raise the salaries of military in 2022. Compared to KDF soldiers, UPDF soldiers are grossly underpaid. A private in the KDF earns up to twice as much as an equally ranking counterpart in the UPDF, depending on the years of services. A captain in the KDF earns as much as, or even more than what a full general in the UPDF earns. This disparity in payment is among the reasons why Museveni is pushing to increase the military budget to catch up with the highest paying military in the region. Also, the UPDF is poorly equipped for an army considered to be among the best in Eastern and Central Africa. The shortage of basic gear such as body armor and tactical footwear among the troops has always exposed the lack of investment in its military because it is the main reason why Museveni is sitting as president today. The rise of popular opposition figures such as Robert Kyagulanyi has also created an urgent need to fund the faction of the government that guarantees his survival. Together with ensuring that he maintains control of the country, Museveni has also set eyes on securing the future for his heir, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, who was recently promoted to full general. General Muhoozi is a terrible politician with zero knowledge of civic leadership, having spent his entire adulthood in the military leadership. The only way he can lead Uganda is through controlling the military. Making the military among the highest paid civil servants will guarantee his stay in power. Museveni understands this. This is why he is slowly increasing the military expenditure and using more than 10% of the government expenditure to build a strong military. Domestic motives are not the only reasons why Uganda's military budget is on the steady rise. This is the reason why neighboring countries, particularly Kenya, must stay on high alert. Power transition in Uganda will not come through the ballot. It will come through the bullet, as it has always done. The second longest serving president, Idi Amin, was ousted by Tanzania, so it will take another neighboring country to overthrow President Museveni if need be. The neighboring country will likely be Kenya. Tanzania is another country with the capacity to do so, but Museveni has old friends in Dar es Salaam who aided him to overthrow Idi Amin. Furthermore, Tanzania is East Africa's Mr. Nice Guy. Nobody is worried about nice guys. It is the bad boy Kenya, a friend of the West, that Museveni is keeping an eye on. Kenya will most likely be used to fight a proxy war against Museveni, whom the West thinks is an enemy of democracy in case a conflict of succession explodes. Museveni has always viewed Kenya as a threat to the stability of Uganda, having accused Kenya of aiding rebels who opposed his rule back in 1987. Kenya also accused Uganda of helping 200 Kenyan dissidents to travel to Libya for military training to overthrow Kenya's government. The beef was quashed, with both parties agreeing to reduce the security forces at the borders. But no love was lost, no love was found. For Museveni, matching or even surpassing Kenya's military strength gives Uganda a fighting chance in case there is a foreign interference that threatens to dispose his monarch. So in conclusion, the data presented in this video paints an intriguing picture of Uganda's rise as a potential military superpower in East Africa. The graph clearly illustrates Uganda's significant rise in military expenditure over the past decade, outpacing Kenya in terms of growth rate. President Museveni recognizes the importance of having a strong military for political stability and his own grip on power. By bolstering the military and increasing salary, Museveni aims to ensure loyalty of the armed forces and secure his position as well as that of his heir, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba. Kenya, on the other hand, has been gradually reducing its military expenditure, focusing on other aspects of the economy. While Kenya's strategy may have its merits, it's important for the country to remain vigilant about Uganda's military capabilities, as neighboring countries have always historically played a role in power transition in Uganda. Kenya could potentially become involved in a proxy war or face foreign interference in an event of a conflict over succession. The changing dynamics in East Africa warrants a careful observation and analysis. It remains to be seen how the military power balance in the region will evolve and whether Uganda will indeed surpass Kenya as a dominant force. The future of East Africa hangs on a balance, and it is essential for the policymakers, analysts, and citizens alike to stay informed, engaged in shaping a prosperous and stable future for the region.